my crafty tribe, Yvette the Card Girl, welcome. In today's video, we're going to take dies into decor. We're going to create a sweet gingerbread gnome decor piece. I love being able to stretch my dies beyond card making, scrapbooking, mini albums, etc. I did pre-cut a lot and ink a lot of my pieces, hopefully to save on some time, but together we're going to piece it all together. Let's start out with the dies that I used. I used the Stamps of Life Gnomette folded die, the Stamps of Life Gnomette folded die, the Stamps of Life Christmas tree folded, the Stamps of Life large box it die. We might use some of the icing from the gingerbread boy, and then we did use some of the snowflakes from the snow globe to stamps for my cookies. And then I had a cup with some icing from my stash, and then I had a word die from my stash that I've had forever, so I don't know where they came from, but it says hot chocolate weather, and we are going to use those as well. So with that, let's start crafting. Let's start with our little Gnomette. So what I did with her, and I'm going to show you all the little pieces that I cut out for her using the outline die. So you're going to get an outline die, which is the biggest die in the set, and that's going to be your outline. And I did cut this out 3 times. I cut this out. I cut it out in a little piece of chipboard to kind of make it nice and sturdy, and then I cut it out twice in craft cardstock for my gingerbread look. So this die we're going to cut out 3 times, and that's what I have here. Okay, and then we're going to take our detailed die, and if you look at the die itself, it's got all of the pieces and they are connected. However, these will pop out, but a lot of them are just connected by tiny little shads, and we're just going to snip them because we're going to do a lot of paper piecing. So with that being said, as I cut her out, this is what this will come out looking like. So it's going to come out in a piece like this. And what I decided to do with her, I could have paper pieced her hair in all black, but what I decided to go ahead and do was just take my black ink and inked up her hair. And then I have her dress all intact. So then I found some pattern paper that I like. So this is another great use to use your scrap paper. And then you can take that same die, and if you got tiny little pieces of paper, like this one, I wanted her apron to have like a different little pattern or another color, and you can just take your paper, let's use her hat for instance, and you can set it right there, run that through your die cut machine. You don't have to cut the whole entire thing out, and you'll get just that little strip. Okay, and so you can do that for all the little pieces of this die, and this makes this die particularly great for paper piecing, which I love me some paper piecing. So with that said, I did cut her hat out, and I cut it out in this really cute little gingerbread pattern paper that I had in my stash, and then we cut out her apron in this pattern paper that I had. And then I gone ahead and used my sage cardstock to cut out her dress. And so when you cut out her dress, I want to show you here. This is where I was talking about the little shads. So when you get here, if you can see right here, they're just barely connected. See that? And then the apron string. So if you took your scissors and you just snip, 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 you can snip away all those little pieces. But I left them all on one when I cut out for her hair, just so I can lay my pieces on it. Okay, so like in the sage, I gone ahead and cut just this lower half out, and then I snipped the pieces off, and we're going to adhere those pieces right on to here. Okay, and then I cut her apron out in a pattern, and then I wanted her apron string to be in red, so we're going to cut that out. We cut that out in red, and then I did her little feet. I wanted those to go in red as well, and again I just took my little bit of red and put it at the very edge of that and ran it through. And then this particular part right here is going to be part of her face. So I ran that through in some cream colored, and then I inked it up in some light brown. And then I just got some little bit of pink and gave her some pink rosy cheeks. So when that goes in, she will have that. And in this die, it comes with 2 different mouths. So you can have her mouth be 2 different ways. I chose this one, and it's going to look like this. And I did that in the cream as well. And I just inked it up and put a little bit of pink. So we will put that on her. And then her nose, I did that also in the cream and inked it up, put a little pink to give her a little rosy nose, and that's going to go in there as well. Okay, so let's glue all that on, and we're going to put that on our craft cardstock here. So let's craft her and put her together. So let's move this over for now, and we're going to just glue on her hat. And by doing dye in the craft cardstock, that gave me the illusion of a gingerbread gnome. So he's going to be gingerbread because he's got the brown. Okay, or she. And then we are going to take her and stick her on right in there. So let's glue her on. So the only thing I did for her as far as inking is the black. But like I said, if you wanted to give her any color of hair, you could cut that out in cardstock as well and just paper piece that hair on. It's so easy. Let's go ahead and put on her face. And let's put on her nose. And then we'll put on her little mouth. Next, let's put on her little shirt. And then I cut out her little apron string in red. Just like that. Then we're going to take her little apron. She's got a cute little apron. And now let's take her dress. Let's get her little shoes on. I cut her little shoes in red. I think I wanted it just to match her apron string so that it had something else red in there to match. And then we will put in her little hair ties, right here, her little bows. And we can add the paper in there, but as you go, if you wanted to add in some actual tiny little bows, we can do that as well. I think this one goes over here. Yep. And then that's going to give us our little Gnomette. I think I wanted to maybe put some of this icing that came from that gingerbread folded and put icing across her hat. Let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glue this. Put that on. I want to put it right at the edge there. I think I'm going to overlap this just so it goes a little bit more seamlessly. And then we are going to push that down and kind of give it like her hat's got a little icing. We have some hang over here, so we'll just turn this over. We'll just snip that off. Yeah, I think I like that, and that gives us a little bit of gingerbread icing on her hat. Let's go ahead and adhere her to the chipboard. And adding that little chipboard just gives it that little bit extra sturdy, secure for when we have it standing up. Okay. So there's the beginnings of our Gnomette. So let's move her over real quick. So we'll put this one to the side for a moment. And we are going to bring in, let's put her little mittens over here. We'll decide if we're going to use those or not. And now let's bring in our gnome. And same thing with the gnome. I cut it out in chipboard. So I'm going to take 3 pieces, 2 in the craft cardstock and 1 in the chipboard. And I already glued the back side. So you're going to take that biggest die and cut it 3 times. And then you have the inside die, which looks like this. That's going to give you your hat. So this is a drop-in plate. So you're going to put this plate in. When you turn it over, you'll want to center it, and I use just a little bit of washi tape or something and put it on the sides to hold it in, and then you will run this through your die cutting machine, and then you will come out with this portion of his beard. Okay, so what I did is I used my cloud ink and I inked up just the edges of his beard along the edges, and then I switched it to this side and I did the edges of each side. So I gave him kind of like he's a little graybeard Santa. And then of course his hat will cut out as well. And then I found this pattern paper that I kind of wanted to use, and it seemed like it went pretty well with the gingerbread theme of her hat. So we are going to glue that on, and his hat, that hat comes out like this. And like I showed you before on her, how everything is attached literally by just a shad. So if you wanted to just snip that, you're going to take that off. We're going to put red on top, but I'm going to leave it just to kind of give it a little extra dimension, the brim of the hat. So let's put on his hat. And then we are going to take the decorative paper, and I just inked up all my edges. I used the twig. I used twig and inked up all of my craft cardstock and all of the hat on her as well to give it that cookie effect. And then, like I said, I cut out the brim of that hat in red to match her, and then it also pulled the red out of this pattern paper as well. And that's kind of where I went with this sage. I pulled this kind of sage color into her dress so that when we put it all together, it kind of pulls all the different colors together. So there's his hat. Now let's put on his beard and nose. Look how easy that is. They all just kind of blend right in. So it makes paper piecing just so easy with these 2 dies. Next, we got his little legs and feet. So right here. And I did decide I wanted to use, I made his little pants with this like gingerbread colored paper with the little snowflakes. And then his feet are still attached, but I did go ahead and cut out his feet in red also to match the brim of his hat. And again, all I did is ran that little piece through. So any little bitty pieces of scraps that I had worked perfect for this. So in the comments below, let me know, do you guys or have you guys ever taken your dies and made home decor pieces with it? Stuff for around your house versus just, you know, maybe what they were originally intended for? Let me know. I'd be interested. I love when I make stuff out of my dies. All right, there's his feet. Now we're going to put on his nose. And again, I cut his nose in cream colored and I inked it lightly in, I think it was Ginger Snap, and then I used the bubblegum, which I used for her rosies, and kind of gave it just a little bit of some rosy hue to it. And give him his little nose. And then I do have hands for him as well, but I don't know quite yet if we're going to use the hands yet. I want to go ahead and put some of the icing along the brim of his hat. And so we're just going to kind of fit it in. These weren't cut and intended for this die, but we are going to make it work. You could also use a white gel pen if you have one. Go a little bit. We're just going to take that off a little bit. And there we got a little bit of icing on the brim of his hat. And I think I kind of like that. Now we are going to glue him onto the chipboard. I'm going to line them up. I don't always get them perfect, but I just kind of go along the edges. All right, now we got a gnome and we got our little gnomette. Okay, now let's take that die and put it to the side for now. And then next I wanted to show the Christmas tree. So we did use the Stamps of Life's Christmas tree folded. And what I did do is I took that biggest die and I cut it out in one time in craft cardstock, one time in sage, and one time in chipboard. Okay, so I did do it 3 times. And then I found this pattern paper that I have in one of my pattern papers. And I just thought it would be really easy to use because it kind of gives it the illusion that there's already light. And then I just inked up the edges with the sage. And then I took the bottom portion of it with the detailed die here. And I did this right here and some ginger snap, and I inked it with the twig to give it the tree stump. And I just gone ahead and done it all because it was pretty simple and it was all connected, and I just glued it down. So that's already done for us, and that's what we used for the tree. We are going to use this star, okay, from this set as well. I used that hot cocoa die. I've had this forever, and it was in a little box of just random dies that I had, but I thought it was really cute because it will look like she's holding like a little cup of hot chocolate. And I put one of her little hands in here, so it looks like she's kind of holding this cup. If you have like a little coffee cup, a little mug, or anything, you can put anything in her hand, or you don't even have to put that there. And then for him, I took a snowflake that I had, and then these little snowflakes. So they have the detailed snowflake, and then they also have the outline. And so I took the outline of the snowflakes, and I cut them all out, craft cardstock, and then I inked them up with the twig to give them the cookie. And then I used white and used the detailed snowflakes as the icing for the cookies. So these are snowflake gingerbread cookies that we are going to use to decorate our tree, and we are going to use them to decorate on here. I really liked this big one. So we're going to have one big gingerbread snowflake cookie, and I'm going to put it here for him, and that's going to be his decoration. And hers is going to be this cute little hot cocoa. It's going to be hot cocoa because the die I decided to use was the hot chocolate, and it says hot chocolate weather, and it came with the sentiment and then an outline die, and it's going to look like this. I cut it out as well in craft cardstock, inked it with the twig, and then cut it out in white, and it's going to be our hot chocolate weather cookie. And I think we're going to put this on our tree. So all of this stuff we are going to place and put as we start to decorate the box for the decor piece. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to get the box it. So that box it die that I showed you, we're going to take it and we're going to run it through the machine, and it's going to come out with this, okay? And this is what's going to create our little box that's going to hold up our centerpiece. So once you run it through, it comes with all the score pieces. And all these little tabs are going to tuck in, and that is what's going to glue to the back sides of our gingerbread gnomes. And we are going to create a box using that box it die. This is going to be the front of our box, so these little guys are going to go up here, but now we need a backing. So let me show you what I did with that. So I took the biggest die in the Gnome and the Gnomette, and I laid it on some craft cardstock, okay? Because we need a back piece, right? So let me show you with the piece that I cut them out of. So here is a scrap paper. So this goes inside here. This went inside here. And so what I did is I took a piece of my washi tape or any kind of tape that you use that puts your pieces together, and I just put these together. You can use a pencil and you can trace it, and you can just fussy cut around them. But again, just trace around the two, make sure you keep them connected, and then you've got your outline here and you've got your outline here. And then that's going to give you your back piece. I hope that that makes sense. I hope I did not make that too complicated. And so what's going to happen is this is going to get glued on this, because that's going to be our back piece. We are going to just put some glue on all of our little tabs. And then we are going to put this down how we want our box to be. So I think we're going to go down. That to go in there. And then you can stand it up to see if it's going to stand up, because we've got to put our front on. And I think I like that. So see here where all your little tabs are? Okay, let's take our bone folder and we're just going to seal those down. Okay, and take my rag, dab up my glue, always dab and glue, and then that's going to give us the backdrop of our box. And then we are going to put on our gnomes. So our gnomes are going to fit right in here like this. Let's put the glue on. And we are going to set our gnome. I think I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to set my gnome on here. Yeah. Okay. And you can just tap that on, just like that. And then we're going to take this gnome and we are going to place him on there. Hold it in place for just a minute. Let your glue set nice. And there you have your box. There's our back. And there's our front. Then we're going to get our Christmas tree and we're going to decide, do we want our tree to be right here, so it's here, or do we want it back behind so it sticks up a little bit better? It's so hard to show it on the camera like this, but I think that's what we're going to do. So see, when we turn this, by putting that craft cardstock on the back, it kind of just seamlessly made it all the same color from the back side. It's not necessary, not everybody's going to always see it, but it depends on where you want to put it on your table. So let's glue the tree onto this portion. So we're going to go, you could get a pencil and outline where you need your glue, but you know, that would be the easiest way, but I'm going to kind of do like this. There we go. Look how cute. So now we got our tree and we got our gnomes on. So the next thing I wanted to do is now place some of our little decorations. So we've got the little snowflakes that we cut out of our little snowflake ginger cookies. We got our hot chocolate weather. And you can use any sentiment that you want. You don't even have to put anything in there. But I'm thinking we are going to put that in here. So let's lay that down there. And then I wanted to put this guy with his big cookie. Let's put his cookie maybe here, because then that can cover up our space a little bit where I thought our tree was going to go. So I think I like that. And then we can take that little mug over here and let's put this on this side, like she's holding her little mug of hot cocoa. And I think that looks really cute. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and place that on. And let's put our little cookie down. It's a big cookie. They're going to share a big one. And then let's go ahead and put her little hand down. And again, I just tucked that hand in her mug. So if you have a mug, let's see, what size is this? You might want to know what size it is to see if you have anything in your stash. Maybe you're curious what size it is. So it's about 1.5 by 1 1/8 inch. Okay, let's put our hand back in here. I think that's going to give it the illusion like she's holding the mug. Yeah, I think that's cute. Look how cute that is. A little hot cocoa with some marshmallows. Okay, there was these little bit bigger cookies. So what I thought I would do is I'm going to use those as like the little pom-poms for their hats. Let's stick 2 of those on. I think that's cute. And then in that Christmas tree folder, remember I told you we were going to use that star. We did use the star, and so I made a cookie star. So we're going to have a gingerbread cookie star on top. So we'll put that right there. I think that's really cute. Let's bring it up just a little bit. There we go. And then let's put our hot chocolate weather right there. Let's glue this on. I might even can bring it down just a tad. Okay. And then we can put on some of these other little cookie ornaments onto the tree. This is all just playing with it and just doing what looks good to you. Putting one up in there. See, we got some ornaments in there. I think that's really cute. And then I can't really decide if I want him to have an arm over here or not. She's got one hand. These ones can look like they're covered up. Let's go ahead and put his mitten just to match the other side. Again, personal preference. If you want to leave that off, you can leave that off. But let's go ahead and put it down. That's cute, right? I have these flat back little pearls that I thought we would put in some of these cookies just to kind of add some flair. I'm going to put just a little dab of glue in the middle. And we can put some little pearls on there. I thought would look really pretty. Might have been wise to put the pearls on the cookies before I put them inside there, but it works. And then I think we're going to add a little cookie down here because we have some made up. That will look really cute. Okay, we can then put some filler. I have some like this crinkly paper. If you wanted to put greenery in there, you could put you a little piece of foam in there and then put your greenery. And then what I thought would be really fun that you could do, you can take some of those cinnamon smelling pine cones and you could fill it with pine cones and then set it out on your, let's turn this over, you know, once you get several of them in there, and you can set it on your table. It's nice Christmas smell in your house. Another option that you could do You can also take it, you can leave your filler in there if you want, and you can put your little pods, K-pod things in here, and put it near your coffee maker. If you have some fun hot chocolate ones or something like that, it's going to give you that look, and then you can just set it up. So that's a cute little idea. If you want to set it by your hot cocoa bar, you could fill it with, you know, your little hot cocoa sticks and all that kind of stuff. You could stick in some pieces of winter greenery in here. Take those pine cones that you had, those cinnamon smelling pine cones, and you can place them inside of there like this. Get you another little piece. And then you could do something like this, where it's sitting out on your table. Possibilities are endless on what you wanted to fill yours with, but those are just some ideas. But I think it's just a fun little craft that you can do. You could set it out, gift it to somebody, like I said, put it on your hot cocoa bar, and just go wild, use your imagination, just have fun. And there you have a fun, festive gingerbread gnome decor piece. Let me know, is it something that you might would want to make? And until then, I will see you in my next video. Remember, a big thumbs up is always appreciated. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and comment, and I will see you soon. Bye.